Dragon Quest is filled with legendary heroes destined to save the world, but somehow, the character that became the most culturally relevant and loved across 2 decades is this guy.
Hearing my name is enough to make anyone wet their knickers.
He tried to rob people on a bridge, fell off that same bridge, and was saved by the person he was robbing. That single act of kindness changed this man's life forever. From this moment on, he followed that person around the entire world.
Still, no skin off my nose.
He has no actual reason to be on this deadly quest, no personal vendetta against the villain threatening the world, and no lust for revenge. He's just there out of pure loyalty to the man that showed him kindness, and yet, this guy is so popular, he has his own spin-off game that nobody in the West ever got to play. His whole character arc is based around humanity, and is a dangerous thug who's actually the biggest sweetheart you'll ever know.
Take it easy, no need to get excited. I know it hurts when you lose and all.
And that's why not only Japan, but the world adopted him as their emotional support Cockney bandit.
I'm gonna cut you up and feed you to my menagerie. But I ain't all evil. If you got any last requests, I'll be happy to service them.
This is the full story of Yangus, son of Yanpa.
Oi, go! Shake a leg, go! Go, 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 come on, go! Go, 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 go. Behave.
Everyone calls Yangus the comic relief of Dragon Quest VIII. The most common structural term used for him is obese comic relief, and many people just leave it there, but underneath is one of the most human characters across 40 years of RPG history. He grew up in a town called Pickham, a notorious secluded town of thieves and criminals. The town's economy runs entirely on thievery and a bustling black market run by a dodgy Dave. Everything about this town shaped who Yangus became, and in turn, the town became Yangus' stomping ground. He had tried several times to go straight, but society rejected him every time purely because of how he looked and who he was. So this town of Pickham became all he had. Despite Yangus' history, he did always have a good heart and he yearned for closeness and companionship. It is such a shame that society ate him up and spat him back out several times. He deserved better, because in this bandit town, he did make some friends. Brains is perhaps Yangus' only reliable ally in Pickham. He's the go-to informant and a scholar who lives among thieves. Brains is where Yangus goes for solutions when his brute force can't solve a problem. The narrative even forces this connection. If Yangus is dead when you find Brains during the story, he will deny his own identity. However, when Yangus is there, he will call out his lie. Brains provides important information to the party on a few occasions that help drive their adventure forward. And Yangus has an implied complex relationship with a girl called Red. This girl grew up with Yangus in Pickham, and as young thieves they frequently cross paths. Their rivalry of the region's best thief formed a deeper bond between them. Yangus eventually fell in love with her, although Red maintained a tough, unbothered exterior, which was something she was forced to inherit being a woman in Pickham. One day, Yangus tried to win Red's affection. Red challenged him to prove his worth by retrieving a legendary jewel called the Venus Tear. Yangus failed this mission, and ashamed of his failure, he left Pickham behind. Red saw his departure as a broken promise and abandonment, which forged a deeply bitter resentment toward him for years. Then years later, Yangus returned to Pickham as a changed man thanks to the hero, and when Princess Medea was kidnapped, they discover the thief sold her directly to Red. When Yangus confronts her, their old rivalry resurfaces and they clash due to unresolved animosity. So Red forces the group to make Yangus fulfill the promise he broke. She demands that they go to find her the Venus Tear. She never expressed it, but she never got over Yangus' departure and kept a grudge against him. While Red does act as a typical tsundere, she deeply cares for Yangus' safety and well-being, and this is seen in quiet moments all throughout the game, especially in the 3DS remake.
Hey? Oh. All right, behave, would ya? Stop grovelling about on the floor. Be a man.
But finally, at the end of the game, after Rapthorn is defeated, Yangus and Red officially go into business together, travelling the world as professional treasure hunters. And later on we will investigate the origin story of their love in the Yangus spin-off, Young Yangus and the Mystery Dungeon, and stay tuned because we will also be uncovering the secret story behind his scar. What makes Yangus so special is his humanity, both narratively and mechanically. His skill tree is even dubbed Humanity, where every other fighter class in Dragon Quest VIII is named after what they do. Yangus has one named after what he's becoming, more human. And over time, if you invest enough points, he learns the skill Kerplunk, a spell where he sacrifices his own HP and MP, killing himself to resurrect all of his fallen friends. This feels so natural coming from Yangus out of everyone, because his life changed when he found friends, and he would do anything for them. He is loyal until death. I think the most charming part of Yangus's personality is how he interacts with other party members, calling the hero Gov with high respect and admiration, and calling the king Grandpa as they clash head to head countless times. They genuinely feel like they have a grandfather-grandson dynamic going on here.
You what? Red? The old artful dodger herself? You're having a giraffe, aren't you?
Akira Toriyama had nailed his design perfectly. He's got the rough and edgy bandit look while still looking like there's something more to him. And that's a part of his humanity. He is charming to the player to watch and has the most comical moments out of every character. He is much more than a comic relief. He became everything that matters most in this game.
God blimey, don't sneak up on me like that! What are you flapping about?
He's just a human from the bottom of the barrel, and yet he still fits in with a crowd of royalty and magic wielders and takes himself to fight Dulmagus and Rapthorn purely because he found friends and was given kindness when he thought he wasn't deserving. And it turns out there's a whole other game entirely that shows you exactly where Yangus' story truly started. A game with no official localization, no unofficial fan translation, no real release outside of Japan. Young Yangus and the Mystery Dungeon.
Dragon Quest VIII のヤンガスにもこんなに可愛い少年時代がありました。ドラゴンクエスト少年ヤンガスと不思議のダンジョン好評発売中。
Dragon Quest fans have been robbed repeatedly for 40 years, and Young Yangus is the single most accurate example of this. You can only play it by either speaking Japanese or holding up Google Translate on your phone, which is what I did for every single text box. This was hell. I also tried using an auto-translator software built into my computer, and it gave me complete nonsense and it was so difficult. So I had to settle with Google Translate. But it gave me enough to understand the bare basics so I can bring this game to Western eyes. You might be wondering, why did this game never come to the West? Well, Dragon Quest VIII is the best-selling game of all time in Japan, with nearly 5 million copies sold, so naturally a spin-off game was gonna come. The third PS2 Dragon Quest game released in June 2006. If you haven't realised it already, the problem was the PS3 launched just a few months later. Who is buying a brand new PS2 game when the next generation console is about to come out? When you compare Young Yangus' 301,000 sales to Dragon Quest VIII's 4.8 million, that's basically invisible, and Young Yangus eventually was faded into obscurity. It was doomed to fail before it had even released. If this dropped on the PS3, it's likely it would have sold a lot more, and we might have even had another sequel to it by now. Considering Yangus' popularity, that's genuinely a believable timeline. Square Enix simply was just stupid. It dropped a prequel to their biggest ever PS2 game on the PS2 just before the PS3 was going to drop, and started to wonder why their game didn't sell. This has to be one of the worst business decisions in JRPG history, and that failure is purely why we cannot play it in the West. But the game itself is actually really good. And I'm not talking about the stereotypical retrospective video like Young Yangus is a misunderstood, underrated gem type of good. No, I mean this game is just good. Simple as that. The most immediately striking thing is how it looks. It has these really high quality cutscenes with a cel shaded art style, and these are packed all throughout the game, and the coolest thing is how they naturally transition into gameplay. I could watch an entire movie of this game's cutscenes. Every cutscene also has this narrator who speaks on behalf of all the characters. He acts out their voice, and it always comes off as hilarious. It has a really whimsical soundtrack and some are arranged from Dragon Quest VIII's OST. Match that with these vibrant colours and a cute expanding mystery world as the story progresses, this game becomes really charming and endearing. This world is called Potterland, a town that lives inside a magic pot, but more on the story soon. This game is packed with some very unexpected characters, which confirms a canon crossover with not one, but two other Dragon Quest games. Yangus is a 12-year-old here. His design is not how I pictured it to look. I imagined a small chunky kid, like, you know the 12-year-old kids who look 16 but they insist they're 12 and you don't really believe them? That's what I pictured Yangus to be. If you have a keen eye, you'll have realised that Yangus' scar on his left cheek, it's missing. The game has an origin story to how he earned that scar, and that's coming soon. A shocking crossover is Torneko. He already has his own extensive video on this channel, you should check that out. Here, he passes on the Mystery Dungeon torch. He's had 3 Mystery Dungeon games by now, he's more than a veteran, he is a legend of Mystery Dungeons, and now he is the wise mentor of Yangus. Red did not come to Potterland for an adventure, nor was it rivalry against Yangus. She came here looking for medicine, a route called the Pedekia route, to cure her mother's grave illness. Her story in this game quietly shows us a new side of her that reframes a lot about every moment she shared with Yangus later on. It reframes a lot about her personality and the way she thinks and feels. Now we understand why she doesn't confess her feelings to Yangus later on. And there's one more mystery character that you'll find out soon. But now you know everyone else, it's time we learn the story. Yangus' father, Yampa, leads a bandit gang inside of Pickham. One day, he brings home a mysterious pot. Yangus is told repeatedly, very explicitly, he was made abundantly clear that no matter what he does, do not touch this pot. Being a stupid 12-year-old, he lands in Potterland, a world that exists only inside the pot with a tribe called the Pottle tribe. They may only be small, but they have strict cultures and laws. The inhabitants of Potterland informs Yangus he is the 4th human to enter these lands recently, as something strange must be afoot. But at this point, Yangus has no idea what he's walking into. To get home, he learns he must revive the Great Tree of Potterland using a special tool called the Great Tree's Watering Can. To do this, he needs to find each of the 6 craftsmen across the lands, each of them scattered across dungeons, transformed into monsters and enslaved by the secret villain hiding away. He meets Poppy very early on, and together they devise a prison break for one of the humans in jail. They immediately get caught, because they're fucking children attempting a prison break. Like, Yangus is not the sharpest sword in the shed. However, inside prison, Yangus has his fated encounter with the monster master, Torneko Taloon. Torneko came here in search of a new adventure. He had heard rumours of dangerous monsters in the pot and came to search for them. He did not expect to get arrested, but then suddenly, the prison cell walls are cracking down. This was due to Red successfully devising a prison break, and together they escape. Then, 50-year-old Torneko takes young 12-year-old Yangus into the bewildering forest alone, where Torneko shows Yangus his ginormous skills of monster hunting. He teaches Yangus everything he knows from his trilogy of Mystery Dungeon games, and he passes on the torch so he can retire. At the end of the bewildering forest, they encounter a mushroom boss. Yangus was ill prepared, and Torneko took a massive blow protecting Yangus, and luckily they escaped in a pinch. But now, here at this point, Torneko finally retires, and he opens up a bank. This man went from being a shopkeeper, to owning his own store, to defeating Satan himself, to travelling around the world exploring mystery dungeons, went into a new dimension, and now he's a banker. But with Torneko's story put to an end, Yangus faces the dungeons alone.
As a child, I yearned for the mines.
Now the legendary monster master, Mori, descends from the sky, crashing into Potterland, and is promptly arrested. Here, while in prison, he teaches Yangus the secrets behind monster taming and gives him a scroll so he can telepathically support Yangus in dungeons, where Yangus trains his monster taming ability and befriends lots of monsters to help him on his quests. From there, Yangus goes dungeon to dungeon finding the 6 craftsmen, slowly building the magic watering can for the Great Forest Tree. He encounters many bosses, which are throwbacks to classic Dragon Quest monsters. Nearing the end of the game, Yangus and Red encounter a strong monster called the Last Killer Machine. After it gets defeated, Red and Yangus bicker, and they are caught off guard when the monster quietly wakes up and fires an arrow at Red from behind. Yangus heroically pushes her out of the way, with the arrow piercing his cheek. What he did not know is this arrow was poisoned. He collapses to the ground and Red must carry him home with no way to treat him. And then, the most shocking part is what Red does here. She pulls out the Pedecchia root, the only medicine that can cure her mother's illness, and she uses her only one to save Yangus's life. Now, when we compare this with what we know about Red from Dragon Quest VIII, she always keeps Yangus at an arm's length, not getting close enough to confess her feelings, but not letting him go so far away from her heart. On the front, she treats their relationship as a business rivalry, but this scene proves there's much more than that. Red cared for Yangus very early on in her life, and Yangus carries the weight of his feelings for Red through the scar on his face. Red showed an act of kindness that saved his life. This made her kind heart break through her rough exterior for just a moment. Very similar to how the hero's act of kindness, saving Yangus's life, broke through his tough exterior entirely. Both Red and Yangus were always two innocent and kind people who were forced into thievery to survive. And then the main villain. He's easily the most interesting lore drop in this entire game. The pot originally belonged to Kandata. If you don't know who this is, he's the legendary bandit king from Dragon Quest III, or more commonly known as Robin Hood. He had placed a magical spell on the pot that sucks everything inside. Over time, every greedy desire, every selfish ambition, every act of human greed that came looking for the pot became absorbed into it. Eventually, all of that accumulated greed developed an evil consciousness and became a monster called the Inhaler. The Inhaler has been keeping the Great Tree withered and dying, but it also has 2 forms, one being a pot with a mouth attached, and the final form being a demon that bursts from within the pot. One parallel I like a lot here, Yangus became a bandit, and the final villain of his origin story is to fight the physical embodiment of greed. This subtly implies that Yangus is much more than a greedy bandit when he's defeating the manifestation of greed itself. We sort of get to see his kind, childlike heart peek around, and that's exactly what we see later on when it blossoms when he meets the hero in Dragon Quest VIII. Even in his origin, he wasn't just a heartless bandit. This is more proof that he didn't have a choice but to become a bandit, not for greed but for survival. But even through those rough times, his heart stayed pure. We see how it began pure here, and in Dragon Quest VIII we see how it ended pure. And as a side note, Robin Hood actually does appear in the story as a spirit. He sees potential in Yangus and considers him to be the successor to his legacy. When we look back at the start of the game, where Yangus is ignored and pushed aside by his father and his gang, if you look carefully at the wall, you can actually see that the gang worships Robin Hood like a god. I have no idea how they even know a character from Dragon Quest III, but for the sake of this, let's just accept it. And then finally, at the very end of the game, Yangus, Torneko and Red regrow the Great Tree and climb its roots to the very top of the pot, entering the real world. They reminisce on the whole journey and say their goodbyes, and I don't know if you've noticed, but Torneko just casually leaves this place, even though this is not his world. What is he doing here? Torneko has just officially gone crazy. Even though he's abandoned his wife and son, At least we now understand why he appears in the monster arena in Dragon Quest VIII. He's probably just lost in this world and making most of his life before he dies. Except, he looks immortal? Because what do you mean this man is 70 years old? In Torneko no Daiboken 3, he was 50. In this game, Yangus is 12, and in DQ8 he's 32. That's 20 years apart, which canonically means Torneko is anywhere between 70 to 80 years old, still kicking ass. But I'm going on a tangent here. So anyway, after the two leave, Yangus finally begins to feel some respect and pride from his father. They heard of the stories of the monsters living inside of this pot, and to know Yangus went in and came back out with a scar fills his father with joy, and from this day forward vouches to start taking Yangus to work with the gang. Yangus is overjoyed to finally earn the respect of his father, and they spend the rest of the night listening to Yangus's stories, his adventures from within the pot.
友情、勇気、そして運命の出会い。少年ヤンガスの男を磨く大冒険。ドラゴンクエスト少年ヤンガスと不思議のダンジョン。
Young Yangus is a nicely fleshed out roguelike dungeon crawler. Each floor is randomly generated as the Mystery Dungeon series does. You work down each level to the boss, but if you die, you lose your levels and restart. The tension system from Dragon Quest VIII returns when you throw a big sleeping item at the enemy, then you've got a few seconds to rack up tension for a big hit. That's how I defeated most bosses, it's a pretty easy cheese. I mentioned earlier that monster taming was in the game. It's very similar to Pokemon. You weaken the monster and suck them into your magic pot. Before they listen to you though, they need to trust you. So you can give them gifts over time to become friends, and eventually they will unlock secret moves, combo attacks, and you can even ride some of the monsters. But these monsters are also party members in the sense of they have different personalities mechanically, and they can also get tired and die. Once they're tired, they can outright refuse to listen to you, and later in the game, you unlock breeding. Young Yangus and the Mystery Dungeon confirms Dragon Quest sex. But the obsessive nature within this game does not come from the breeding. Much like Torneko's Great Adventure 3, it's the post-game content. Japanese players became obsessed with the replayability after the main story, especially in the survival dungeon that goes up to 999 floors, and once you die, you lose all progress. But then, after the Inhaler's defeated at the end of the game, Satan enters. Yeah, Yangus fights a Stark. If you saw my Torneko video, I mentioned how there's a chance of Torneko tripping over his feet and landing a critical hit, defeating a Stark. I feel that Yangus has that same energy here. What is a 12-year-old with a stick doing fighting Satan himself? Young Yangus and the Mystery Dungeon was the PS2's last Dragon Quest game. It was rated 35 out of 40 by Famitsu and criminally sold only 301,000 copies. But the thing is, this game sort of did everything right. It got Yangus right, it got the characters right, it got the art style right. It is a great prequel for Dragon Quest VIII. And one thing I think that's too important to forget is the web of canon crossovers here. The pot originally existed within Dragon Quest III's world thanks to Robin Hood. Somehow, this pot found its way to Torneko in Dragon Quest IV, it found its way to Yonpe in Dragon Quest VIII, and for some crazy reason I don't know how, Istark found his way here. The only headcanon I can think of is when Istark is defeated in the post-game of Dragon Quest V, which is the very ending of the Zenithian trilogy. He is just sent elsewhere into a slumber, it's not said where. So it must have been the pot that he was sent to. There's no other way to explain this, but anyway, the connective tissues between these games is pretty cool. This links Dragon Quest 1, 2, 3, 4 and 8 together. That's awesome. But when we look back, Yangus grew up in rough streets and in poverty, fighting for survival. Every time he tried to leave that life, he was plunged deeper and deeper. This whole adventure within the pot showed him what it was like to fight for something greater that wasn't about money or survival. He found friendship in a way that he couldn't explain, and it was in a way he never got with his father. As he grew up in a life of crime, it's very clear that his heart stayed the same. Despite all the thieving, violence and thuggery, His heart yearned for friendship, and that's when he meets the hero. That's when his whole story changed.
Cool, blood! Nah, I'm fed up with saying that old line now.
I have a lot more to discuss about Yangus, but I didn't want to pad this video any further than it needed to be. So stay tuned for my ultimate Yangus iceberg video coming soon. Things are going to go very, very deep. And it's all information I purposely did not use in this video. There is so much here. So stay tuned. And while you are here, make sure to like and subscribe to show your support and stay updated on heaps of Dragon Quest content coming your way. For now, I'd recommend checking out one of these videos. I do think you'll like them. So thanks for watching, and let me know your thoughts on Yangus and who you want me to cover next. I'll see you in another video.
Cool, blimey, father.
Oi, go! Shake a leg, go! Go, 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 go!
Gov.
You watch